Hey everybody, I'm here today to tell you how to tell if your car needs an oil change. In this video, I'll be going over 7 simple things to look for that will allow you to know whether or not your car needs an oil change. Now let's get right to it. Oil is a vital component of the engine. It actually serves a wide variety of purposes, and it's absolutely necessary for an engine to run smoothly and for an engine to last a long time. So with that being said, oil changes are definitely important. Now let's get right to the 7 things that you should be looking for. The first thing that you should look for is to check the oil level of the car. So there's actually a dipstick in your engine bay area, and you should check the owner's manual to know where that dipstick is and how to check the oil level on your specific car. But generally speaking, when you remove the dipstick, there's going to be a minimum line and a maximum line, and the oil level should fall somewhere between that minimum line and the maximum line, because you don't want to have too little oil and you don't want to have too much oil. So use the dipstick in the engine bay area to check the oil level of the car, okay? If there's too much, obviously you're going to have to empty some out. If there's too little, you're gonna have to top it up or just get an oil change. Okay, so that's how to tell. The first way is check the oil level using the dipstick, and check your owner's manual for more specific instructions for your car. Number 2 is to check the oil color. So when you're actually checking the oil level with the dipstick, you should take a look at the color of the oil. Now, fresh oil is sort of like a transparent brown kind of color for the most part. And as oil gets dirty, as oil gets old, it turns to a very, very dark brown and a very, very dark color. So it gets much darker. So with that being said, if you look at the color of the oil, if you see that the oil is a fresh color, then you probably don't need an oil change yet, depending on the other factors, okay? But if you see that the oil is pretty dark, that it's gotten significantly darker from its fresh color, then that's definitely a good sign that you should get an oil change, because you need some fresh oil in there. Number 3 is you are beyond your mileage limit. So depending on the type of oil and the car and so forth, you're gonna have sort of like a mileage limit in which after you've surpassed that limit, you should probably change the oil. So once again, it will depend on the car and the type of oil. Synthetic oils have different mileage limits than conventional oils, and different cars have different limits on them. So check your owner's manual, check the oil container, call the manufacturer to find out. But if you're beyond that limit, let's say that you're beyond that limit, then you should get an oil change done ASAP, okay? Because that limit is basically when they are recommending that you change that specific type of oil in that specific type of car, okay? Number 4 is that you are beyond your time limit for the oil. So just like there's a mileage limit, there's also a time limit, meaning if you've gone beyond a certain number of months that they have specified, then you should change the oil, because even though you haven't actually driven the car beyond the mileage limit, the oil has been sitting there for the number of months, for more than the number of months that they have recommended. So once again, check your owner's manual, call the manufacturer, check the oil container, do some research, but check for a time limit. And if you're beyond that time limit, once again, you should be changing your oil as soon as possible. Number 5 is check the oil indicator. Now, on many modern cars, there's actually an oil life indicator on the dashboard somewhere. Most of the time, it will show a percentage of the oil life that is remaining. So on my old car, I would always change the oil when it was about 5 to 10% remaining. And that was the easiest way for me to make sure that I'm doing it on time, because once it got to 0%, then theoretically, it was too late. So what I would recommend is, if your car has an oil indicator, if it shows a percentage remaining of the oil life, then you should follow that. Use that as a guideline for the most part, okay? Once you get down close to 0% of the oil life remaining, change the oil. I would recommend doing it at 10, 15%, 5%. This way, you know that you still have a little bit remaining and that you're actually changing it earlier than expected as opposed to later than expected. It's always better to be earlier than later. It's as simple as that. Number 6 is to actually check the oil grittiness. Now, I'm gonna say this, before you ever touch the oil, make sure that it's cool, okay? Before you ever touch the oil, make sure that that it's not hot, that it's not warm, you know, make sure that it's cool. But what you wanna do is, when you know that the oil is cool, okay, just to be sure, when you know that the oil is cool, you wanna actually, you know, get the dipstick and you wanna just take some of the oil and rub it between your fingers. And what happens is, as oil gets used and as oil gets old, it turns almost gritty. When it's fresh, it's gonna feel super smooth, okay? But as it gets older and as it gets used, it's gonna feel very gritty. So check for a grittiness feeling, because if it feels gritty between your fingers, once again, make sure that it's cool, okay? Don't ever touch hot oil or even warm oil. Make sure that it's cool. If it feels gritty, then that means that it's time for an oil change, because you don't want all of that grittiness going through the engine's components continually. You want to get that oil changed ASAP. Last but not least, the 7th thing that will tell you that you need an oil change is to listen for increased engine noise. Now, as I said before earlier in this video, oil serves a wide variety of purposes. 2 of those purposes are lubrication, so it lubricates the engine's components, makes sure that everything runs nice and smoothly, and it actually insulates the sound of the engine. So what happens is, as oil gets old, as you get closer and closer to needing an oil change, you're gonna lose that sound property of the oil, okay? You're gonna lose the lubrication property, but you're also gonna lose that sound reduction property, meaning your engine's gonna get quite loud. You'll notice that your engine is much louder when you need an oil change. And it's literally that simple. In this video, I've gone over how to tell if your car needs an oil change. I've told you 7 simple indicators to keep your eyes and ears out for, things that you can look for that will allow you to know if you need an oil change. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down below as a comment. What are some other indicators that allow you to know that you need an oil change? Let me know down below as a comment. And of course, be sure to subscribe for more great car and driving videos just like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.